Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our last literacy lesson of the week, and we're going to be writing our third paragraph in our recount. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to get started this morning by thinking about how could this paragraph be improved. So the first thing is to read the paragraph and think to yourself, what could have been better? So I'm going to read it for you. It says, I finished breakfast and I said goodbye to my family and headed to my school, which was only a few streets away. The weather was warm and I strolled along the pavements. Above, the sky was cloudy, but everything was still. There was no breeze at all. Arriving at school, my friend Jenny was waiting for me. The bell rang and we went straight to our class on the third floor and began our lessons. So what do you think could have been different or better about this paragraph? So you can pause the video, discuss with a partner, or talk out loud to yourself. Why is this, a bit dull? What could be better? Once you've done that, come back and press play. Okay, so the first thing I spotted is and, it's just really like all the conjunctions are the same. It's really boring. So we could have had better conjunctions. I finished my breakfast. Also, I said goodbye to my family after I finished my breakfast, then headed to my school. The weather was warm while I strolled along the pavements. Okay. The bell rang, so we went straight to our class in order to begin our lessons. Okay, so we got better conjunctions would have been the first one. There's also lots of missed opportunities for noun phrases. So I could have had the something pavements, the calm pavements, the quiet pavements, the something cloudy was densely covered in clouds, for example, would have been much better. The weather was pleasantly warm, maybe. Okay. Yeah. So again, we could have had more interesting vocabulary as well as better conjunctions. Okay. So well done if you thought of those things. Today, we're going to be writing our third paragraph, focusing on using speech. So before we start, quickly remind yourself, what is the point of a recount and who is our audience? Pause the video if you need a bit more time. All right, so the purpose of a recount is to retell an experience that you have lived through from your own perspective, okay? And who is the audience? Well, anyone who wants to know about your life or wants to know what it's like to live through a specific type of experience, such as an earthquake. So today we're writing paragraph 3, and this is where the earthquake's actually going to happen. So let's think, what might you do if an earthquake suddenly started? How might people react? So like you to pause the video, talk to somebody nearby you, or just think to yourself, what might you do? Once you've done that, come back and press play. Okay, so the first thing might be that, you scream. You might hear people screaming. People might duck and cover. People might shout out, like, what might they say? Have a think. Things might start like rocking. You might see the building starts to move just a little bit. Maybe paper falls off the wall. The light objects start tipping over on your desk. Okay, so this might be the first things that happen. And how might people react? They're probably going to scream. All right, so have a look at this model text and let's see if we can figure out what's the effect of speech. It said, then something happened. Suddenly the sea darkened and it seemed to be rushing backwards towards the horizon. Danger, everybody run, I heard a man yell down the beach before he started sprinting back inland. In the distance, what seemed to be a huge wall of water was quickly moving towards us. I had no idea what was happening. James grabbed my hand and shouted, run. So what's the effect of speech in this section? Well, the speech is short, sharp, and it tells me what the characters are doing. They're running, okay? It alerts people to danger. It's the sort of thing you would shout out in emergency. So just think to yourself, what would be appropriate things that you could have said in your paragraph today? So remember, our speech needs to be short and sharp. It shouldn't be long sentences about, oh no, I can feel the ground moving. Is it an earthquake? Miss Boots, what should we do? That's very long. If it was an emergency, you use short, sharp language. So we want to be making sure that our speech today is short and sharp. So for example, what could we have? You can pause the video if you'd like some time to think. But maybe you'd have something like run, or quick, get out, or everybody out, or get away from the building, or get under the table. Short and sharp. All right, so we're going to use some of this today. So our paragraph today is going to describe the change in atmosphere, then describe how people reacted using speech, and then describe how the disaster started, and then lastly, what do you do or the people who are nearby you do? All right, so let's get straight into it. Sentence number 1, describe the change in atmosphere. So our model text said, then something happened. Suddenly the sea darkened and it seemed to be rushing backwards towards the horizon. Maybe we could start with, then everything changed. Then something happened. Then it happened. Then it came. Then the day took a turn for the worse. So short sentence that really puts your reader on edge, makes them really anxious about what's to happen. So my turn now. Oh, you don't want to see me. We're going to go across. I've got my steps to success here if you need to see them. So I'm going to say, so the began our, so just rereading my last sentence. The bell rang, so we headed upstairs to our classroom on the 2nd floor and began our lessons. So then, comma, it started. Dun dun dun. So I'm trying to make my reader feel anxious. And I'm going to use an ellipses here, dot, 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 to show that something dramatic is about to happen. Okay? Suddenly, or all of a sudden, or without warning, just trying to create that shock. Suddenly, what happened? So I don't want to say, you know, everything just split and exploded up in the air. It starts a little bit smaller, like there's rumblings and everything starts shaking just a little bit. Okay, so suddenly I felt the floor, because I'm up on the 2nd floor. If you're on the ground, you want to say the ground. I felt the floor shake and things started moving. All right. So just introduce the idea that an earthquake is starting. Maybe you can say the windows began to rattle. Okay. My water bottle shook and bounced to the floor. So just nothing big, nothing dramatic. I'm not going to say that the whiteboard screen fell off the board or fell off the wall yet. Not yet. It's just earthquakes start small and then get bigger in their movements. Okay, so you want to emulate that in your writing. You want to say that it started small. Okay, so your turn. Pause the video now. I'd like you to describe the change in the atmosphere. Once you've done that, come back, press play. All right, welcome back. Thank you for doing that. So now we're going to talk about how did other people react, and we're going to use our speech using our full speech sandwich. So maybe it's everyone under the tables, or run quick, or get away from the building, or get outside. And who's most likely going to shout? Well, it's probably going to be your teacher. I need to stop going onto my face. It's probably going to be your teacher, or your co-teacher, or maybe one of the classmates. All right, so coming across to mine, watching it, well, the most obvious thing is the teacher's going to shout earthquake so that everyone knows, okay? So I'm going to use speech marks, capital letter, earthquake, speech marks, earthquake, my teacher shouted. You can be specific about the teacher, but if it's not relevant to the story, you can just say my teacher. You can say Miss Boots or Miss Jones or Mr. Parker if you'd like. It's up to you. Earthquake, my teacher shouted, and maybe what do they do? So I don't just want to say what do they say, but oops, dropped my ruler. What do they do? Earthquake, shouted my teacher, springing up from her chair. Or his, springing up from her chair. So again, short, sharp. I've not made a big conversation out of it. It's just what might they shout? Like, run, get outside. It's an earthquake. What could they say? All right, so your turn now. Pause the video, go and write that. And once you've done that, come back, press play. All right, hopefully you've written a short, sharp bit of speech that tells me how the teacher or one of the classmates has reacted. Moving on, we're going to now describe the disaster happening, okay? So I'm not going to have like loads of things going on because that was going to come tomorrow's paragraph. I'm going to describe all the horrible things that have happened. But for today, we are going to describe the earthquake happening and what things might, happen. Things, maybe something starts falling off the wall. Maybe the shaking gets worse. Are you going to run outside? So we might have, for example, without warning, all of a sudden, unexpectedly or alarmingly. Okay, so coming across to mine, I'm going to say the building shook gently at first. The building shook gently at first. And then I want to say it changed in, so then it got worse. Then in big, forceful, so my noun phrase there, big, forceful. So it makes me think that like the moves are like, it's like really rocking and rolling in the classroom, not in a good way. Big, forceful movements that seemed to go on forever. And I'm only going to say one other thing that's happening. So I've just described the movement of the earthquake, and now I'm going to describe one thing that sort of it happens at the starts. Glass from the windows I need to go onto my next page. Glass from the windows exploded over us. Because the glass is probably the first thing to break in a building. All right, so your turn now. I'd like you to pause the video, describe the beginning of the disaster. Do not go all over the top and describe loads of things happening. You're just saying what happens at the start. What's the first things that you notice? Okay, all right. Welcome back. Thank you for doing that. So the last thing we're going to write today is, what did you do? Are you going to run out of the door and down the corridor and outside? Are you going to get under the desk and cover your head? What are you going to do? I think on my character, or me, as though it was me, I would have run outside because I don't want a building coming down on my head. Doesn't really suit my life plans. So how did I react? Maybe you said, maybe your friend grabbing me or pulling me to the door or running to safety, I dashed outside. Not knowing what to do, I followed my classmates down the stairs. And you might have a bit of speech here. Everyone under the tables, for example, if that's what your class did, or get away from the building, okay? So my turn, I'm going to say, well, I really want to stress that I did not know what was happening. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. So a nice short, sharp sentence to create a bit of fear, okay? And now I'm going to say that the teacher got everyone outside. So gesturing at the door. Gesturing at the door, my teacher was shouting. And what's she going to shout? Get out, everybody out, cover your head. Okay, it was shouting everyone out. So I'm going to have speech marks, capital letter, everyone out. There's my speech, punctuation, speech marks. Okay, that's the end of the sentence. All right, so now I'm just going to say what I did. So she's reacted. The teacher said gesturing at the door. So my teacher's pointing at the door and telling me to get out. I'm going to grab Sarah's hand and started to run. I grabbed Sarah's hand, apostrophe, possessive there, and started, let me move that up there, to run. All right, your turn. Pausing the video now, I'd like you to describe how did you and those people who are nearby you, what did you do? All right, so I'm not going to say over the top. I'm not going to be like, we shielded our heads and I heard this come down and then we did that and blah, blah, blah. That's tomorrow. I'm not getting ahead of myself. Just my initial reaction. What did we do? Did we run outside? Did we get under the desks? Describe how you and the people near you reacted. Pause the video, off you go, come back for our editing. All right, well done. Last thing we're going to do is edit our paragraphs. And of course, we are looking for spellings, punctuation, grammar, and how can we up-level our work. So here we go. Then it started. Suddenly, I felt the floor shake and things started moving. Suddenly is extra information. I could take it out and the sentence still makes sense, which means I need a comma to separate my fronted adverbial. Suddenly I felt the floor shake and things started moving. Earthquake. Let me check my speech marks. Speech marks, capital letter, speech, punctuation, speech marks. Earthquake, my teacher shouted, comma, to separate the action, springing up from her chair. The belding shook. Dear. This is one of our spelling words, so I'm going to fix that up. The belding is not correct. The B-U-I-L-D-I-N-G. The building shook gently at first, then in big, forceful movements. Now, I don't like the word big. Big is a boring word. When you change it, then in I could say huge, forceful movements, but I'm thinking about what does the movement look like? I'd say it's like jerky. It's not like a smooth rolling movement, it's jerky. Then in jerky, forceful, and that should be a U in forceful, movements that seem to go on forever. Glass from the windows exploded over us. I'm happy with that. I didn't know what to do. Lovely. Gesturing at the door, my teacher was shouting. Right, if I took out gesturing at the door, the sentence still makes sense. My teacher was shouting, everyone get out. Everyone out. So I know that that's additional information that needs a comma. Gesturing at the door, my teacher was shouting, everyone out. I grabbed Sarah's hand and started to run. All right, fantastic. I am happy with my paragraph. Your turn now. Go away and edit your paragraph. Once you've done that, please take a photo, put it up on Seesaw so that your teacher can see it and give you some feedback. Thank you for a wonderful last lesson of the week, and I'm so excited to see you next week. Have a lovely weekend, and I look forward to seeing you Monday. Bye.